the clearest picture to date of the early days of Russia's war in Ukraine, including Putin's thinking, the concessions that both he and Zelensky were actually open to, and critically, the way that NATO, led by the US, made a strategic choice to kill a budding peace deal that could have brought a ceasefire mere weeks into this horrific conflict. In an explosive interview, former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett goes into great depth about his role in attempting to achieve a negotiated settlement a week and a half into this war. Listening to this interview is to come face to face with just how much we have been lied to and propagandized by the Western press. Every detail about this conflict has been obscured and manipulated, from what the war is even about to what our role in it actually is. Now, some of you might have seen excerpts from this interview already. It occurred over a week ago now, but it is 5 hours long, and I wanted to take some time to actually go through it thoroughly before I broke it all down for you. Also, the interview's in Hebrew. I'm going to read a bit of the English translation and put the video up on the screen so you can just get a vibe of what it looks like. Right now, we're dropping into the interview after former PM Bennett has already described the outlines of the deal and his role in the negotiations when he explains why this diplomacy all came up empty-handed. So he says, "I'm just the mediator, but I turn to America in this regard. I don't do as I please. Anything I did was coordinated down to the last detail with the US, Germany, and France." The interviewer then asked him, "So they blocked it?" And he replies, basically, yes, they blocked it. And I thought they were wrong. In retrospect, it's too soon to know. So in that clip, Bennett there says unequivocally that NATO, led by the US, blocked a budding peace deal. At another point, Bennett says, quote, "I have one claim. I claim there was a good chance of reaching a ceasefire." The interviewer then queries whether Bennett means they could have achieved a ceasefire had the US not curbed it, and Bennett nods yes in confirmation. Think of how explosive this revelation is. If there was an ounce of credibility in the Western press, this would be bombshell news. It reveals a portrait of the war and our role in it that is wildly out of step with the narrative that the U.S. public has been fed, in which we are solely supporting Ukraine's ambitions, as Biden says nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, and in which our only choices are to let Ukrainians be slaughtered or ship tanks and probably fighter jets and court war with a nuclear-armed superpower. In reality, Ukraine, led by Zelensky, wanted a deal early in this conflict and was willing to make some hard compromises to get there. And far from the imperialist madman presented in the U.S. press, Putin was also seemingly willing to make significant compromises to achieve a ceasefire. Bennett says it was his impression that both of these men wanted a ceasefire at that point. Now, most of the press simply ignored these revelations, which honestly was probably the safest choice, because the attempt to spin it was hilariously flailing. This attempt to spin from Insider claims that actually the Hebrew was translated incorrectly. And when Bennett says, quote, "they blocked it," the correct translation should have been, quote, "they stopped it." Oh, well, if the U.S. stopped the peace negotiations, that's totally different than if they blocked the peace negotiations. Come on, people. They also trotted down, of course, their tried and true tactic for shutting down debate by smearing anyone who amplified this interview and the explosive revelations contained therein as a Russian propagandist. But whether the proper Hebrew to English translation is blocked or stopped, this is not the first indication we've gotten that the U.S. killed an emerging deal and chose war over the possibility, not a certainty, but the possibility of negotiated peace. Bennett, for what it's worth, put that possibility of achieving a settlement in those early days at a 50-50 chance. Not a guarantee, but damn, it was worth a shot.